This is the second um, part or second component of the identity lecture for Indigenous Studies Module 1, Introduction to Indigenous Studies. The previous presentation, we talked a little bit about the importance of individual and group identity. And now we're going to focus in a little bit more and talk about identity as an American Indian or Native American. One of the things is that identity as Native American or American Indian has four major aspects that you might consider rights, or you might consider important aspects to Indian identity. Sometimes what we're talking about is American Indian identity is shared with other cultures around the world. There may be other cultures around the world that have very similar types of things as we've identified in this slide. And these four things are, is it provides a connection to group identification. We talked about that need that human beings have to be members of groups. It also, in many cases, but not always, provides access to economic resources. So if a tribe has natural resources that it sells, and money comes back into the tribe, um, maybe it comes back in and is put into a tribal education program for college scholarships, and you get a college scholarship. That's providing access to an economic resource. Some tribes have per capita payments where money that's made perhaps in something that really generates a lot of cash, like a casino operation, may be divided between all the members of the tribe on a regular basis, so everybody gets what they call a per capita payment. And there's other economic resources as well. Living on the reservation, you may have access to housing at a cost very, very lower than, very much lower than what would be on the outside of the reservation. The other thing is the participation in cultural activities. um, we're going to talk about this a little bit more, but cultural activities are defined by the tribe, and some tribes, many tribes in fact, have cultural activities that are limited to participation only by those people who the tribe considers to be members or eligible to participate in those activities. And those can be a variety of activities. It could be dances, it could be ceremonies. There's all kinds of things that are part of the cultural base of the tribe, and that participation in those cultural activities is limited to only those people who are recognized by that tribe as members. The other thing is a lot of times Native identity is a source of personal or family pride, but it can also be personal or family shame. We look at a lot of times a lot of people want to be Native American. This is one of those crazy interesting things. One of the biggest genealogy study things that goes on is people wanting to be Native American. Of course, a lot of that is trying to show that they have sufficient um, tribal blood or native blood to maybe qualify for membership, especially to access those economic resources. And we see that happening in times of economic downturn such as we're in right now. Some people feel that need of they want to connect to the group. Some people want to have access to cultural activities, and we look back and people want to be Native American. There's a certain pride in that for a lot of people. You know, my great grandmother was a Cherokee princess. That's an old joke, and but there's an element of truth to that. There's a lot of people who want to have that connection with tribes. On the other hand, there are quite a number of people who don't want to be Indian. There are people who there's people wake up, young people in particular, wake up every morning saying, "God, why did you make me an Indian?" And that native identity isn't necessarily a source of personal pride, but it's a source of personal shame. And this happens a lot in communities where there's a tremendous amount of discrimination from the non-Indian community, where tribal people are placed in situations where there's extreme poverty and not really any ways people can't see a way out of that extreme poverty. Or there may have been something happen within the community itself where a particular family may feel some shame. And so this identity as Native really carries a lot of baggage with it, a tremendous amount of baggage. So then you say, well, who's an Indian? What's an Indian? Who can be called an Indian? And my position is there's no such thing as an American Indian. And this is kind of one of those really weird things, because I even had a student last semester say, well, how can we refer to people as American Indians? And that's the force of habit. I'm an old guy, and it's hard for me to change. That's what I grew up with. But in reality, the idea of American Indian is really a way for people to conglomerate or pull together a whole lot of people who fit a particular racial description, and not really differentiate between these people. It's just kind of a overgeneralization. And I can say, yeah, I'm American Indian, but the reality is, in order to be considered Native, or American Indian, you have to have some kind of tribal affiliation, meaning that you have to belong to a tribe before you can be considered to be American Indian. Nobody is American Indian as American Indian. Everybody who is American Indian has that American Indianness based in belonging to a particular tribe. And so we start talking about the reality that I'm not American Indian. I'm Anishinaabe. I'm Chippewa. That's where my paperwork resides, as for me being an American Indian. Anybody who's American Indian is first a member of a tribe. And the tribe is what makes that person the Indian. And so that means then that only those people who could be called Indians are people who qualify in this group identity of not only saying, "Hey, I'm a member of this tribe," but the tribe also says back, "Yeah, you're one of us." So we say, well, what is tribal affiliation? And that means that a person is a member of a tribe. We'll look at some of these definitions here in a few minutes, but tribal affiliation can mean that one is a member of a tribe, first of all. Second of all, has tribal ancestors, or has other connections to a tribal community that's based in kinship or relationship. It could be, in-law or something like that. And that tribal affiliation is very, very important, because that's what determines the degree to which you can claim to be a member, claim to be Indian, the degree to which you can participate in the economic benefits, if there are any economic benefits of belonging to your tribe. It determines the degree to which you can participate in your tribe's cultural activities, and it can be a source of pride or shame, whichever one, or someplace in between. But the other flip side of this, I suppose, is that tribal affiliation also means that the tribe recognizes the affiliation as much as the individual claiming the affiliation, meaning that I can't sit here and say, oh, I'm a member of this tribe, which I could probably, in a sense, my grandfather's from the Cattaraugus Reservation in New York, and that's a Seneca reservation. My grandfather's, I can say, hey, I'm a member of the Seneca tribe, but I'm not, because our tribe was what they call a matrilineal tribe, meaning that all the